Hello everyone and welcome to Begin to Code. In today's video we're going to revisit the lottery app that we built in our very first video at Begin to Code, and we're going to do a bit of a review and take a look at some things we could have done differently, some things we could have done better. We're going to look at how we can auto generate the labels on the form instead of sort of hard coding them in, and that's going to be really relevant as well for the other applications we're working on, which is the picture matching game. So let's begin. Okay, so here we are in our app, and if we just click generate, it generates 6 numbers from the balls 1 to 59, and we get the array sorting in order, which is perfect, right? It works, but I think we can make this a little bit better. What I'm not comfortable about is where we've put these 6 labels on the form, and in our code behind we've done this. In lottery load, we've populated the labels into the lottery labels array. I think there's a different way of doing that, and let's go through how we can do that. So let's delete that and let's look back at our form. What we haven't got on here anywhere is some sort of container to put these labels in, and I'm going to put them in a container because this is also a label as well, and I don't want the code to confuse these 6 labels with this label. So we're going to insert a panel, and then we're going to select our 6 labels and put them in the panel. That's all we need to do. Now you see when we move the panel, the labels move within the panel. They're properties more or less of this panel itself, and this panel is called panel 1. So in our code, let's think what we can do to populate the labels array with our labels on our form or in our panel now. And we can do this code. So lot labels is going to equal panel 1 dot controls dot of type, and we're going to look at label to array. So what that is saying is all the controls of labels that it finds in panel 1, write them to the array lot labels, which is exactly what those 6 lines of code was doing before. Let's run this and see what happens. Well, we didn't get a crash yet, so something's happened, and we get the labels populating. Now, for some reason, they don't go left to right. I think that was, which one was going 3, 1, 6, 2, 5, and 4. 3, 1, 6, 2, 5, and 4. I'm not sure why it does that. We can fix it by, well, I didn't mean to restart it, by changing the order of the ones on the front. So what was it? It was 3, 3, 1, I can't remember, 3, 1, 6, I'm guessing now, 2, 5, 4, something like that. Let's see if we're close. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we got there. 6. So now we've got them back in order, but I'm a bit unsure why it doesn't pick them up in order. If you see our label numbers, it's 4, 2, 7, 3, 6, and 5. This seems to be quite random how it puts them in, but it does work. And if you've got a lot of controls on your form, so these don't have to be labels, they could be buttons, they could be text boxes, and you want to put them all into an array like this, putting them in a panel and then circling through them using this code, you can see how efficient it is. If we had 100 labels, it's just 1 line rather than 100 lines each by each that we were doing before. So that's a really good way of populating the labels into the array where they've already been created. What we're going to do now is have a look at creating our own labels from the code itself. Okay, so in order to create the labels via the code, we're going to trigger it at generate button. We're going to put a new panel onto our form so we can run them side by side. This one's going to be panel 2, which is fine. And from here, or in here, we will create our labels, which we will create a new function for called create labels. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so in our code, I've created a new function called create labels, and I've also created a new array with 6 labels in it, lot labels other. So we're still going to use lot labels for the original code. Then we're going to do a new array for our new labels, which we're going to generate via create labels. And we're going to do this with a loop. So we can say, we know how to do the loops now. So for int I is 0, if I is less than 6, then I plus. So how do we create our labels via our loop? So let's create them in the array. So lot labels other I. So the first place in lot labels when it runs for the first time wants to take a new label. Then it's in panel 2 dot controls dot add, and we will add lot labels other. So already you can see how similar this is to this. Here it was panel 1 controls, add them to the array, because we'd already manually put the labels into panel 1. Here we're putting via the code the labels into panel 2, so that's where we're adding them. Then we can go through, we can create our names. So lot labels I dot name, this can equal, let's call it label, I can't remember what we called the other ones, num other, so we know which one it is, plus I. This will label them 0 to 5. Let's update our text just so we can see these being created to start with. So we'll say lot labels text equals lot labels other I dot name. So we will put the name into the text when we run it and see them. Then we can change the font so it's in line with the other font we're using. So lot labels I dot font equals new font, and this font is Microsoft, let's put that right, no, Microsoft Sans serif. Well, we're doing it wrong, and we want it size 16. Then we need to think about the position. So let's come back. I'd like to start it in line with this one. So actually, let's just drop a label into our panel and we'll get an idea of where we want to place it. So in line with the top one. Now, if we come down and look at our location, it's 2644 in panel 2. So you see our location is driven by where its location is in the panel, not in the form. If we drag this out of the form, then now it's out of the panel, sorry, now it's the location in the form. So in the panel, it's 2649. Where do we want it? So this is the left and the top. So 2653, that will do. So let's create 2 positions, integers. So integer xpos can equal, I've already forgotten what they were. My memory is not what it used to be, 26 and 53. So let's call this one 26, and int ypos equals 53. So this is the starting position of our label, and the 26 is the one we're going to iterate through. 53, I think, is the horizontal. So where are we? In create labels, here we are. We want to say our lot labels other I dot top is going to equal our xpos. I hope I'm going to get this the right way around. And our lot labels other I dot left is going to equal our ypos. And actually, I think they are the wrong way around. I think this one should be x position, and this one should be y position. Famous last words, I've probably got them wrong. Now, all we need to do, because we're looping through, we don't want all our labels created in the same x and y position because they'll just overwrite each other. So in our loop, we can just loop through our x position, which is going to equal the existing x position, and we can plus 100 onto it. So the next label should be x position plus 100, then x plus 100, then x plus 100, and they should space out across the page with lot number other, label number other in. All we need to do is run this code, and we can run it on button generate. Let's run it right at the top. Let's create labels up here. Let's see what happens. So we can start. I left label 2 on the form. Let's get rid of that. Don't want to cheat. There's no labels in our panel. Let's start it, and let's see if we get some labels come. 6, 10, 13, 37, 40, 45. And there are our labels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's not updating the I at the end of them, but we do have 6 labels created on our form, which is good. Just running out of space a bit, so maybe the 100 is a bit big. We can make it down to 80. But that is creating our labels via the code on the form. Okay, so we've got our labels created in code. Let's see if we can use them and pick some numbers in here as well. So at the moment, create labels is run on button generate click. We don't need to do that every time. We can actually do it on load form. So let's move create labels up to load form. I'm putting it before refresh numbers because I remember refresh numbers clears our labels, and we're going to have refresh numbers clear our labels again. So if we put it before, it's going to create our labels first, and then we can run refresh numbers. So into refresh numbers, into our same loop, we can add our lot labels other now, and we can update those with the same thing. And yeah, we can do an update on them as well. Lot labels other. So refresh labels is now running. Then, or refresh numbers. So on button click, we refresh numbers, we pick numbers, and then we show numbers. Yes, we do. So now we actually want to pick numbers twice because we've got 2 different arrays or 2 different sets of numbers to populate sets of labels. So we're going to run pick numbers again, and then we're going to run show numbers again. Show numbers. Now, pick numbers doesn't care which label we're writing to. Pick numbers is writing the labels we've picked to the array pick num. Show labels does care which labels we're writing to. Let's have a look at show numbers. Here it is. So show numbers is a loop which is only writing to lot labels I. So we've got now lot labels and lot labels other. So we need to distinguish in show numbers which labels it should run. So I'm just going to throw in an integer here which we can use to distinguish it. So now when I look at show numbers, it's going to look for a number to pass it. So on this one we'll pass 1. So this is set number 1, and this is set number 2. Then in show numbers, we can now say if which is equal to 1, then we want our for loop, writing to lock labels, else if which is equal to 2, then we want it writing to lot labels other. Now that should, make sure the squiggly lines go, that should populate both sets of labels with our picked numbers. Let's run it. A moment of truth. Pray for the best. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the original code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there it is, populating the labels we've created on the fly, as it were, but it's also populating the labels we've also built into the form. Now, why I've done this code review in this particular app is I think that this piece, and let's come back to our form, the piece here where we've just put a blank panel on and created the labels via the code, is really useful for our picture matching game, where we want it to say whether we're playing an easy game or a hard game and determine how many boxes we want to do. This is the same principle, right? Here we're just putting in 6 labels. It could be 10 boxes or it could be 20 boxes. We can, pass variables to say that. So this is how we're going to reuse what we've learned today in our new app. When we think about the lottery app, we've built this for the UK lottery, right? It's 6 numbers between 1 and 59. But now we have it able to generate labels on the fly. So when you think back to, say, our option app, where we were taking user inputs and then acting on them, we could now take user inputs on this form. We could say how many picks it needs to do. Is it 6? Is it 5? Is it 7? And then it can generate that number of labels, because we can take the integer that we create there and we can pass it into our array, and we can pass it into our create labels, wherever it was, into create labels here where we're saying it's 6. Well, this could be the user input. We could create 8 labels or 7 labels quite easily now. And then we can do the same thing for pick numbers. So all of a sudden we can start to put together all the things we've learned to date into this app and make it really generic. So instead of it just being a UK lottery app, it could potentially pick the numbers for any lottery, right? Because you just say, this is how many balls you want to pick from, and this is how many picks you want to do. You can have the inputs on the form and hit generate, and it's going to write those out for us. So I think that's good for today. We've looked at a couple of new concepts. We've created the panel and looked at how we can put the controls that we've already created on the form into the array, or we've also looked at how we can create the labels on the fly and put them into the panel. So that's really it for today's video. And look, we worked with labels, but it could easily be text boxes or buttons or anything. I think that we can loop through any controls we can loop through, and this is the code sort of to do it. Or if you've already created them, then this is the code in order to put them in the array and start using them. So I think on tic-tac-toe we created 9 buttons, right? Well, this piece gets rid of 9 lines of code on tic-tac-toe. And again, it just makes our solutions a bit more flexible for what we want to do, and less code should mean less errors. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thanks everyone for watching. That's how we're going to start working with controls and dynamically create them in C#. So our next video will be in a couple of days. It will be back to picture matching. We're going to use the concept that we've learned today to look at creating our boxes and getting our pictures on and start to match them off. So that's going to be a longer video. It's going to be a good video with always a little bit extra, a little bit of something new. So when we're beginning to code, every video, watch the start from video 1 and just see how every time we just add something new, and pretty soon we're going to be really flying. But everything we're doing is very reusable between our apps, which is where we want to be. It should be practical how you can start to develop, and that's really where we need to be thinking. Like, comment and subscribe. Thanks everyone for watching. See you soon. We'll see you with picture matching in a few days. Bye for now.